Welcome to movingtariff.com, the U.S.'s #1 destination for all moving tariff solutions. Did you know that 80% of moving companies fail in their first 2 years? The most common reason is receiving a DOT audit and not having a tariff in place. This gives the authorities the power to fine you into non-existence unless you have $100,000+ in your bank account. The best way to prevent this from happening is to have a firm understanding of the government's moving tariff regulations and its charges. Here's one of the most common regulation questions people have about moving tariffs. How can movers go about estimating the transportation and accessory charges for their customers' move? The government requires moving companies to provide written estimates on every shipment that's going to be transported. Customers are entitled to a copy of the written estimate after a mover prepares it. The written estimate has to include all transportation, accessorial, and advance charges. Remember, the rate quote that you give customers does not count as an estimate. You and your customers both have to sign the estimate of charges. The government then requires you to provide the customer with a dated copy of the estimate of charges immediately after signing the estimate. If the location your customer is moving from is located within a 50-mile radius of your company's location, the estimate you give your customer has to be based on a physical survey of the customer's goods. At this point, you have the right to tell the customer that he or she is welcome to waive the requirement for a physical survey if he or she so chooses. If the customer agrees to waive the physical survey, it has to be in the form of a written agreement that's signed by the customer before the shipment ever gets loaded. The customer should be aware that if he or she received an estimate from a household goods broker, the mover isn't required to accept that particular estimate. If you do accept a broker's estimate from your customer, make sure you and the customer document in writing that the estimate came from a third party and not from your company. Next, you must specify the form of payment that you and the delivering agent will accept at delivery. You have every right to change the estimate of charges at any point before loading the goods. Just make sure that the customer is fully aware that you're amending the charges. You and the customer can decide whether he or she wants to do a binding estimate or a non-binding estimate. A binding estimate is a written agreement made in advance with the customer. It indicates you and the customer are bound by the charges. It guarantees the entire cost of the move based on the numbers and services written in the estimate. A non-binding estimate differs in that it's what you believe the total cost will be for the move based on the estimated weight of the shipment and the accessorial services that the customer requested. The non-binding estimate lives up to its name in that it's, non-binding to you. This means the final charges will be based on the actual weight of the shipment, the services provided, and your tariff provisions. Check out our other videos for comprehensive information on how to do binding estimates and non-binding estimates. If you go the non-binding route, make it very clear in writing and have your customer sign that he or she is aware the cost is non-binding. Customers typically pay 10% more than the estimated amount when estimates are non-binding. It's probably best that you make sure your customers are aware of this to avoid any conflicts taking place when they're billed for more than the estimated amount on the non-binding agreement. Also, make sure your customers are aware that he or she should be prepared to pay at delivery the cost of any additional services that were requested after the contract is executed. This is for services that weren't in the original estimate and any impractical operations. The customer will have to ask to see your mover's tariff to read over which particular services are defined as impractical operations. Remember, charges due at delivery for impractical operations cannot exceed 15% of all the other charges due at delivery. Be sure to train your staff on rules and regulations like these to ensure the government doesn't fine your company into non-existence. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to go to movingtariff.com for all your moving tariff-related needs. Subscribe to this channel and watch our other moving tariff videos so you're fully up to date on all things moving tariff-related.